Okay, you say in your letter that you're going to vote down the Liberal government at the first available opportunity. Well,
are you?
Looks like the first available opportunity might be in committee.
No matter what the Liberals do, it always seems like the Conservatives are one step ahead of them. Under normal circumstances, the opposition parties would have to wait until the end of February or early March to introduce a confidence motion to bring down the government. However, there might be a loophole to bring down the government as soon as the House returns from the break. And it could work.
Let's take a look. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Conservatives have a new plan to bring down the government quickly. This is an article from the National Post that was published today, folks, and it's catching the eye of many political strategists and many political scholars. So, what the heck are we talking about?
The Conservatives are going to reconvene the Public Accounts Committee on January 7th and use it to ship a motion of non-confidence to the House of Commons when the holiday break ends on January 27th. The party believes MPs will be able to vote on the motion by the end of January. If the NDP joins the other parties and votes in favor of it, the motion would bring down the government and spark a federal election. The move means the Conservatives won't have to wait for one of its quote-unquote opposition days in the House of Commons, which are controlled by the government, before it can test the House's confidence in the Liberal government. The motion is also designed to capitalize on NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's recent statement that his party is now prepared to bring down the government in the new year. In the wake of Chrystia Freeland's dramatic resignation as finance minister, Singh wrote a letter saying, quote, "The Liberals don't deserve another chance," end quote, and that he would vote non-confidence in the next sitting.
Singh's pledge means that all the opposition parties have promised to bring down the government at some point in the new sitting. A request for comment to the NDP was not returned by press time.
Of course not.
If the motion gets to the House of Commons, it will be the first test of confidence for the government since Freeland's resignation on December 16th triggered new uncertainty about the future of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Some Liberal MPs called for Trudeau to resign, and others lauded Freeland for her stand against the Prime Minister. At least one MP openly encouraged the former finance minister to run for the leader of the Liberals. On Friday, Trudeau's former top advisor and close friend, Gerald Butts, wrote in an email newsletter that Freeland's departure could be a political death blow for the Prime Minister.
The motion the Conservatives plan to put before the committee will simply state that, quote, "The committee report to the House the following recommendation, that the House has no confidence in the Prime Minister and the government," end quote. The Conservatives' parliamentary gambit is sure to set off debate among constitutional academics about whether the government can be brought down by a committee report censuring it.
Mitch Heimpel, a former Conservative strategist and now policy director of the public affairs firm Enterprise Canada, said the Conservatives are putting pressure on the Liberal government and the NDP with the move. Quote, "From a tactics perspective, it puts eyes on Parliament over the break, and it puts the Liberal backbenchers on the committee, some of whom probably want Trudeau to leave, in the untenable position of potentially having to filibuster to protect him, which will make the government look desperate and terrible, even if they manage to stall the report," end quote, said Heimpel. It also complicates Trudeau's options for the new year. Whether the Prime Minister intends to resign or simply reset the agenda in his party's favor, it has been widely speculated that he would prorogue Parliament to do so. Now, it would look like Trudeau was putting Parliament on hold to avoid a confidence vote that could bring down his government. Quote, "It puts a question of confidence in front of Parliament, which the Governor-General would, at least theoretically, have to consider in the event of a prorogation request," end quote, said Heimpel.
So the strategy here seems to be put a confidence motion in front of the House, and therefore Trudeau will have at least more difficulty trying to prorogue the House, because the Governor General will have to take that confidence motion into consideration? Is he proroguing in order to avoid this confidence motion, or is he proroguing for something else?
Well, and this is the brilliance of this whole thing, because the House will continue to be seized when they come back, unless prorogation is executed. Now, if it's not, then what you're looking at is a committee report. Now, committee reports, as we've seen, are still allowed to come to the House when Parliament has been seized. And they end up often voting on them because they, are, as we've talked about before, they're concurred in. So you would end up voting on the committee report. Now, this committee report would be that the House has lost confidence in the government. So this would, in effect, be a confidence motion. And some political scholars are saying, yeah, this could work. This could work. There's some precedence behind this. And to the article's point, this would now call Mary Simon's credibility into question. Not that it needs to be called into question any more than it already is with her massive spending habits, but let's put that aside. If the Conservatives introduce this on January 7th, which is when they want to call the Public Accounts Committee back, then they're going to debate it around, and that's what will happen. If the Bloc and the NDP are going to side with the Conservatives, then the motion should pass. Now, this is the interesting thing that the article talks about. All the committee members are not in cabinet that are on the Liberals, right? So most of these people are backbenchers. And from what we're hearing, most of the backbenchers want Trudeau to go. So if they want to keep the government up, they actually have to filibuster to protect Justin Trudeau. Are they going to do that? That's the question. The other thing that this does is it puts Jagmeet's words again in the spotlight once again. Okay, you say in your letter that you're going to vote down the Liberal government at the first available opportunity. Well,
are you?
Looks like the first available opportunity might be in committee. So this is what might happen. Now, John Williamson, who is the chair of the Public Accounts Committee and is a Conservative, he put out a letter. So this is the letter, and it essentially says that he is going to be calling meetings to do exactly what the article said. So the Conservatives will introduce a motion of non-confidence. And he also says that if the Liberals decide to filibuster, he will continue. He will continue to schedule meetings all the way through January, basically taking the Liberals away from their ridings. Very valuable when you know an election is coming, but taking them away from their ridings in order to continue to filibuster in committee. And that would look absolutely terrible.
Well, it would look absolutely terrible, especially because the people in the ridings want Trudeau gone.
Right.
The majority of Canadians right now do want an election. So if you're in one of these ridings where you have this Liberal backbencher who's trying to filibuster this motion, are you going to support that person? No, you're putting political pressure on that person, bring down the government. And if they're not doing it, it's going to look bad. And if they're not doing it, are you going to vote for that person again?
Right. And so, and they may want Trudeau to go. And this is going to be the problem, right? What are they going to do? So it's effectively forcing the Rebel caucus to take their side. Are you going to stand with Justin Trudeau, or are you going to stand with the will of the people? At which point we now know close to 60% of Canadians want an election immediately following all this chaos that happened with Chrystia Freeland right before the break. Now, the last thing it talked about was, what is Trudeau going to do? Because he may have planned to prorogue anyway. But the fact that the Conservatives have gotten ahead of this, have said, we are going to be introducing this at committee, again, be first, it now will look like the only reason he's proroguing is to escape a vote of non-confidence. And Mary Simon has to take that into consideration when Trudeau asks to prorogue.
Not only that, but this is exactly what the Liberals were accusing the Stephen Harper Conservatives of doing back in 2008. But in Harper's case, it was a little bit different. The election had been 6 weeks prior, and the minority government with the Liberals and the NDP and the Bloc. Those three parties were trying to kind of get together, vote non-confidence in the Stephen Harper minority government 6 weeks after we just had an election, and take over and form a coalition government without going to a new election. It would have caused a constitutional crisis. So that situation was different. However, the Liberals have been neglecting to mention that up until now. All they've been saying is, oh, well, Stephen Harper prorogued Parliament in order to prevent a non-confidence vote. Yes, technically true, but they didn't give you all that additional context. So if they do try to prorogue Parliament in order to avoid this non-confidence vote, they're going to be no better than the Stephen Harper Conservatives as they've been describing them up until this point. We know it's a different situation. You guys know it's a different situation. But the way the Liberals have been framing it, if they avoid this non-confidence motion by proroguing Parliament, it will be doing the exact same that they accused the Harper Conservatives of.
It's going to be very interesting, folks, when this happens. Now, before we leave, we want to make sure that everyone has taken a look at our petition to bring down the government. This becomes so much more important now, considering this motion of non-confidence. It is a perfect artifact to go along with it if the House does return on January 27th, because it bolsters this confidence motion that would be coming from committee, because you would have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Canadians signing a petition to say, we are ready to go. So this is now our work that we need to do over the next couple of weeks, folks. We only have until January 18th to get as many signatures on this petition as possible. The link is in the description. Remember, it's one email address per signature. Do with that as you will. And ensure that your friends, family, anyone who wants an election, get them to sign it. The link is to our website as well for the QR code. Everything is there to be able to direct you to sign this petition. Let's get all of Canada signing this petition so that we can declare in one voice, along with the opposition parties, that it's time for an election and it's time for it right now.
And please remember, after you sign it, you will receive an email from the House of Commons. If it's not in your inbox, check your junk folder, and please make sure that you click the link within that email to verify your signature. Your signature will not count unless you complete that final step.